Right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Down the Pub, brought to you by Wolves of Westminster, with me, your host, Peter Simpson, who runs the Haryan Gláeddyv channel and is obviously a contributor to Wolves of Westminster. I'm here once again with Patrick Timms, the editor of Wolves of Westminster. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Peter.
And we are here once again with Simon, another contributor to Wolves of Westminster. Hello, Simon.
Good evening, Peter.
Evening. So it's, I mean, obviously we record these on Thursdays to go out the day after, so a lot can happen with this particular story because a lot happened today. But big news seems to be Rachel Reeves is either. A lot of people seem to want her to get sacked. Well, for a lot of different reasons, but it looks like that might be happening with this whole she rented out her old house while she lives at number 11. The rent was crazy as well, like 3,600 a month, which I mean, even I mean, when I've been looking around renting, I've seen not well. I don't look over 1,000, obviously, but I suppose if you've got a family house, it would be like that. But this full story of this so far, I believe, is someone will have done some digging, found she didn't get a license that you need to rent a house out, council level thing that's just ridiculous, and then it's been brought up, it's been pushed by the newspapers. Rachel Reeves has said, I didn't know anything about that because it's a ridiculous license that's on the council level. And then it's turned out that the agent that she used to rent out the house basically said, it's kind of on us because we should have got that license for you. And then there's an email chain showing that actually Rachel Reeves and her husband should have known. But I think realistically, when you're running as Chancellor of the Exchequer, you've got a lot of things to worry about than someone telling you we'll handle it and double checking that sort of thing. So I certainly think you two will be on this side as well, but I'm on the side of I don't think it's necessarily a sackable offence, but a lot of people are still going to push for it.
Well, that's probably true. And when we look at it, like I say, it's very easy in politics to just go for our opponents' throats, isn't it? And go for their necks or whatever it is you want to call it. But the reality is, in this case, it looks as though this is something that, maybe she could have known about it, maybe she should have known about it, but, she's quite busy. So on this kind of topic, and it's good as well for us to be able to say things like this so that we don't just get labelled as, oh, we'll just bash Labour, whenever we can. No, we don't do that, actually. We try to be as impartial as we can. And the reality is, in this case, yes, it looks like something that, as I say, could have been known about and should have been known about, but wasn't, and therefore, I mean, God, I've had my own insurance issues, or gas safety certificate issues as a landlord and that kind of thing. Well, I just didn't know, or I didn't have the money to do it, or that kind of thing. I'm quite happy to say that on the airwaves. There's no landlord school, okay, and well, if there is, I'd like to go to it. But and as with Ms. Reeves here, it seems like a sort of a genuine mistake that does need some accountability, though. And of course, she has, in fact, shown that she has communicated with the Prime Minister. It's always funny when people write these letters, I will say that, as though you hadn't been in the room with them about 6 hours beforehand. So you hadn't already done this in person, but now we need the paper trail. So, it's not like
this is for the press more than for us.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. I always find these kinds of letters rather amusing. But so she has sent a letter in. Sorry, that was my phone. She has sent a letter in apologising for this, also clarifying the situation, and saying, look, basically, I didn't know, but I acknowledge that I was supposed to have known. And yet still, though, we have people who are clamouring for her head. So we will see what happens with that from now on.
Well, I mean, that's been the Tory push really for ages, hasn't it? It doesn't matter who it is, just get scalps. They managed it with a few of them as well. Angela Rayner being the big one. Yeah, I mean that seems to be the only thing that the Tories can succeed at this point is just how many scalps can we get.
Well, you can pile on the pressure quite hard when you've got that many MPs, despite what the polling might be saying. I think with this particular case, it's pretty clear she just messed up, right? But I can see a universe in which, should the heat get a bit too high, she might perhaps just choose, you know what, I don't really like what's going to happen in the budget. I'm going to just jump. There is a little conspiratorial part of me that thinks, is this like Suella sending that email to a personal Gmail? Going, oh, I've got to resign. You know, I've breached data. Oh, silly me. Isn't this just a classic? And then going away. I've got a little suspicion that might happen, but I think probably it's a nothing mode.
I don't think we're quite getting there though. I would understand if she doesn't want to be chancellor anymore, because ultimately, a bit like with Liz Truss, she wants to go in and do a load of stuff, and she's being told computer says no. You know, the OBR says you've got no headroom. And now it looks like we might be getting a 2% income tax rise, but a 2% cut in national insurance, so that's quite nice of her.
That will actually fix the stranglehold on employees to some extent. So,
well,
not massively,
true.
but
also true. But that breaks one of their big manifesto pledges, which is do not increase personal tax. So they made a rod for their own back there. So I don't have much sympathy for them, because it was a stupid thing to say anyway with the economic situation.
Yeah.
Well, you remember we said this last time, I think. I quoted Giles Brandreth, didn't I? An experienced politician. So I can't remember whether it was on air or off air, but
don't say anything.
Politicians, the biggest mistake they make is saying anything at all. And so there we are. But what we should just clarify on we said potentially a 2% drop in national insurance. Well, is that personal or employers? Because what they raised was the employer's contribution, not the personal contribution. They also lowered the threshold at which it kicked in. Has anyone got information on that? Which one are we talking about?
I'm not sure. I assumed it was the personal one, but I didn't really read into it properly, to be honest, because I'm trying not to get too depressed about,
I think we're all like that.
About what's coming up. And now it's quite hard to actually find that information, because everyone's talking about this renting thing. Which, the main thing to take away from this as well, I would argue, is, this is twice now we've had major politicians, ministers even, who've been caught out because of a complex tax system that Rayner was blatantly trying to get around that, to be fair, but also this ridiculous you need a license to rent out your home thing, and no one seems to think, can we streamline any of this? Can we make it a bit more simple? Want to do any of that? No, they don't want to touch anything that would have fixed these problems in the first place. I guess because partially it makes them look a bit cynical. But who cares if it actually brings a good, however small, to the country?
Well, with that said, because I rent out my home, except that I don't. I use spare rooms, so I have a lodgings arrangement with my lodgers. They are not tenants. I can kick them out at any time for any reason or none with 28 days notice. Alternatively, they can serve me with their own notice to quit with 28 days notice. So I think a lot of people are turning more towards things like the reality of that is that because when I live in London, I just live in a room, so where would all my other stuff here actually go? And so it's a way of me keeping the home up here, but having the one down there. But it is furnished. It's got my stuff in it. It's got my cooker in it. It's got my microwave in it. It's got all my furniture in it. All of that kind of stuff. Everybody has flexibility. However, it looks in this case as though what Ms. Reeves has done is rented out a home, which would suggest that it is in fact that is an unfurnished, empty property. And it has a sole occupying license by those to whom it's been rented out. But even I have found it difficult navigating the currents of the lodgings segment, and it doesn't give me any surprise at all that Ms. Reeves has also found it difficult navigating those currents of the rental market. The question really has to be, could she be deemed to have known about this? And my question, as somebody who's managed offices for a while, is, well, departments at least feels like an office. It brings up a comms, well, not comms issue, but like a sort of a prioritization issue. if personal, I can only gather they would be personal emails of that nature, were not sort of filtering through her threshold of stuff she ought to have been aware of. Because what I think we can all agree on is that she should have been aware of this, and she said herself the same thing. She should have. She just wasn't. But then again, haven't we all been in that situation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a bit like Angela Rayner. What Angela Rayner did was worse in a way, because she was actually trying to save herself money. But I think I said this on one of our previous podcasts. Everyone tries to save money from the tax man. Everyone does it. Angela Rayner just managed to do it in a way that saved her 40,000 rather than 20 quid from a cash in hand job or something like that. Which, you know, you just get to politics of envy at that point. She still paid a lot of tax for that house, it's fair to say. But then when it comes to not Angela Rayner, when it comes to Rachel Reeves, she's not saved any. She saved like 100 quid for a license.
Yeah, I mean, again, the fact that we have to have a license to rent our houses in specific council, it's not even the government says this, it's this specific sub-government says this. It's ridiculous. But more importantly, the evidence shows that basically it's the agency that screwed up. I think the email trail basically shows her saying, "I think there's this thing that we have to get," and then they say, "Oh, we'll take care of that. Don't worry." And then they didn't. So this is kind of like what Rayner thought she could get away with telling people when she tried to chuck her legal team under the bus. But in reality, it probably is the agency that's screwed it up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to dwell on it because I'm kind of bored of talking about this already.
Well, if you want to be, I saw the image of the house. It's a very underwhelming house.
But still, I saw an image as well, but it was still £3,600 a month. Which
I suppose what's the actual market value? Where is it in London?
That's the sort of thing my mum does. I wasn't that interested. but
do you not? If one, because I think I'm getting the sense you want to finish up on this topic. So, if you don't mind, I'll close it up by saying, okay, look, this is one reason that Starmer can use, or I will say one more reason that the Prime Minister can use if he does decide he wants to chuck her under the bus. But that's about all this actually amounts to. I mean, people have gone for less.
They have. The problem is that Starmer, I think Starmer probably knows this. If he gets rid of Reeves, he's not lasting long. You get rid of your Chancellor. You know, as a Prime Minister, he's screwed.
Well, that's what happened with Liz Truss. I mean, she got rid of her own Chancellor for implementing her own agenda. That's even worse. You know, so it's one of those. But yes, you're right. But like I say, it's one of those where, you know, if sometimes I said this on the airwaves like 3 years ago, something like that, about Ed Miliband was before they were in power. You know, and if Starmer wants him to, if he wants to abolish any new sort of licenses for North Sea oil and gas and all that kind of thing, which they've now done. But if he wants to do that and he thinks that's a good idea, then Starmer can just let him do it. And when it blows up in his face, he can just sack him and get rid of that. And that's the end of that. So you've got to bear in mind, this is politics. So at the end of the day, if he needs a reason to sack Reeves, which he might find after the budget or not, you know, then he's now got another one. It almost looks like one of the sort of unforced errors, you know, the sort of thing. But well, he can store that up as ammo if he needs to use it.
Yeah. There you go. You're updated with Rachel Reeves and why. Hopefully, by the time this is out, she's not been sacked. Otherwise, we have to take everything back.
We'll have to record some crude segment in a minute. Like, by the way, breaking news.
Yeah, we'll have to do a live stream of it tomorrow instead.
Oh gosh.
Right, I believe you had a topic, Patrick, that you did want to bring up tonight. You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. There we are. So yes, I did. And so what we have now is a situation over in the Netherlands. We have an election, and the results are not quite fully called yet, but they're pretty much is 99% as of the time of recording of votes counted. What we have is the party D66, which is basically the Lib Dems. Now, I'm not sure which of them are more offended by that comparison, but I don't care, but I don't need to. And we have the PVV, which is the Partij voor de Vrijheid, so that is led by Geert Wilders, who is basically the Dutch version of Nigel Farage. Okay. Now, in terms of D66, they have a new leader. He, as it turns out, is 38.
Oh.
As am I. It makes you look at your life. Seriously, it does. It makes you look at your life. If you're
My
actually
neighbour from first year is an MP. How do you think I feel?
well, there we
Dreadful.
are. So,
Very, very happy with your life choices, I would hope.
well, there we are.
Well, yeah, it's, yeah.
Quite. So there we are. So we have that. And at the moment, they're projected 26 seats each, and the Kamer, which is the second chamber, so the House of Commons equivalent, basically, this has 150 seats. Okay. So now you have the VVD, Volkspartij voor Vrijheid en Democratie. That was led by Mark Rutte, who has now moved through the revolving door into an EU role. He was the Prime Minister for 13, 14 years, something like that.
Good Lord.
Yes, he was. So yeah, that's changed. But the point is, this is a bit like, we don't know what the actual result is going to be yet, but what I would say to people, just as I said on the airwaves before, is that this is why we don't do PR or AV, because, this result is just ridiculous. It's like there seems to be a bulk of the electorate in the Netherlands that wants a more, they are basically centre-left. That's what they are. They're kind of, as I say, a lot of the Dems. You've got them, and then you've got the people on, well, shall we say, significantly further to the right, in the PVV, who want other things. Now, this
bit further than reform, I think, is a way to put it.
Well, let's just say, so the way this happened, right? The last time I had an election, what happened was Geert Wilders' party got 37 seats out of 150, but that still leaves him massively short of a majority. The trouble was that because they always, because they do PR over there, they always form coalitions, or they try to anyway, and nobody would work with Geert Wilders. Nobody was willing to work with him to the extent of actually making him Minister-President. So what ended up happening, and this is honestly, you couldn't make this stuff up. You couldn't make it up. They put Dick Schoof, whose full name is Hendrik Schoof, in as Minister-President. Now, the issue with that is he is basically the equivalent sort of, well, at the time it was, now it's Chris Warmond, isn't it? But at the time, Simon Case, who was cabinet secretary. He was basically a very senior civil servant, right? But he was not a politician, which meant that nobody had ever voted for him ever, because they'd never had the chance to. He never stood for election. Now, his cabinet collapsed earlier this year because of motions specifically relating to migration and restrictions upon that Geert Wilders, being the leader of the largest party, was insistent upon. Dick Schoof said no to that, and the rest of that top table were not able to agree on those terms, so Dick Schoof walked out, which collapsed the government. Okay?
Damn.
So now we have another election, and now we have a result that's literally, like I say, the rough equivalent in UK terms would be a neck-and-neck seat result between something like the Lib Dems and something like Reform UK. And nobody knows, I think, quite what the hell is going to happen. But the point I wanted to make was, look, this is going on at the moment. It's in the news cycle. We should talk about it, but not just that. It's also about what on earth might happen in this country if a similar sort of thing might happen to occur.
Yeah.
If both Labour, because they're trailing in the polling results, the Conservatives are trailing in the polling results, what on earth might happen in that kind of situation? At least we don't have proportional representation, but still, it could be something to think about.
Well, I think I've said. I think I've said before. Well, I've said plenty of times before. Actually, if I put money on anything, it would be Reform win, Lib Dem second biggest party.
Yeah.
But well, now we've had polling out today where it's Reform at 30 odd. Then it's the Greens in second at 17.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, and then it's Labour and Tories on 16 points each, joint third, and then it's the Lib Dems. I mean, five-party politics, you know, everyone keeps saying that.
Yeah.
It's kind of true, but it is very much... the thing that really takes away from is that it's Reform winning every time, in every scenario. There's no pollster
the maths. If you look at electoral calculus, look at what Sir John Curtis is saying, you know, the maths isn't really built to withstand this. What I have heard that's very interesting, that Patrick's particular sort of expertise has reminded me of, is since the Carfley by-election, there's been serious talk of basically just mass tactical voting against Reform by people that just think, okay, I'm a Green, I don't like the Lib Dems, I don't like Labour, I don't like Tories, but I'll vote for whichever one isn't that guy. There's been serious suggestions of that, and I think we mentioned this. You may have mentioned this briefly when I was present. But there was a lot of tactical voting during Carfley, particularly from Tories. I mean, there is evidence that the Tories massively wanted
to vote for
Clyde.
I mean, it was quite funny. I was talking to a Tory friend when I said, "Oh, you know, James Heal said that he's heard a load of Tories have voted Plaid." He said, "Oh, that won't have happened." And then polling came out and said, "Oh, like 20% of Tories went to Plaid just to stop Reform,"
which I think is just insane. Like, if you are Mr. Tory, what do you believe in? Well, I want lower taxes, smaller government.
I want separatism, more tax,
lower,
Wales.
Probably lower immigration. I'm generally some kind of English patriot. Do you know what I'm going to vote for? I'm going to vote for the Welsh Separatist Socialist Party. Yeah, that sounds like a cracking idea.
Yeah, to be quite defensive on Reform, because I obviously put out a video that was kind of, I think someone said, "Oh, I always love Haryan's propaganda with these things," but my point was, you know, this was a seat that was right next to Cardiff. Before Reform came along, it was, I think the joint result for the right was 20% between Tories and Reform, and that swung up to 36%. So it's the trend's actually right. I mean, obviously, Plaid absolutely dominated. It was a very, very well-known local candidate as well. I think it was a councillor for like 10 years or something.
Well, not only that, he's been their candidate there for about 17 of them.
Well,
so
there you go.
That's basically institutionalised.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of people kind of have, you know, oh, thank God, maybe Reform won't get in. But I'm just there thinking, to go from 80% voting left-wing parties, you know, different flavours of it, including the Lib Dems in that, to be fair, so that might be a bit harsh. And then for Reform to consolidate the right-wing vote, and not only that, grow it by 16%, while the left-wing vote shrinks by 18, something like that. That's a very, very, very good trend. And John Curtis was even having to remind everyone, like, no, this is on track with what Reform are polling everywhere anyway. This doesn't change anything. They didn't win a very left-wing seat. Like, that doesn't really tell you anything.
You've got to bear in mind as well, you know, in a country like Wales, where you actually have a nationalist and separatist party like Plaid, just as in Scotland, where you have the SNP. Well, in England, you don't.
Yes.
You don't have that alternative. And it is worth saying as well, you know, I've known MPs and PPCs who've worked their seats very, very, very hard. Now, people will say, you know, sometimes, you know, people vote for parties, right? Sometimes they vote for party leaders. So not actually the party, but do I reckon is this guy or girl more likely to be the best prime minister? Yep.
Yeah.
Other times, they vote with their local head on. They vote for candidates.
Yeah.
So by all accounts, if this guy, you know, has actually been well known in that constituency for a long time. He's done a lot. Usually, what they do is a lot of community volunteering. So my former MP, he used to train the disabled footballers, young people's thing, and he did stuff with he did swimming training down the local leisure centre. That was kind of how he worked his way in, because he tried in London and a couple of times in the West Midlands, and I sent him up to Cheshire, and they don't help you, They don't help you, so go live there and work the seat for a bit. But in all fairness to him, he did.
Yeah.
You see, so sometimes people will vote for candidates. I mean, I remember being, I may have said this before on this podcast, but I'm going to say it again. When I was running for council, I didn't get it in the end, but this is 6 years ago. This is during the sort of the Brexit era, and there I was on the doorstep talking to a lady. In fact, she was 63. She was a Remainer, but she said, "Look, we had a vote. We should have left, and I'm not voting again until this happens. I'm not voting again until this is put through." And the whole message we were treated. I was running as a Tory candidate at the time. The whole message we were trying to get through is, well, go and vote then.
Vote for us, and we will do it.
Yeah. But by the end of that conversation, because it would seem, from what she said, the other lot, none of the rest of them had actually put much footfall out there.
Yeah.
By the end of that conversation, she was voting again, and she was voting for me.
Nice.
She said, "I'll vote for you because you've given your time."
Yeah.
Oh, they love that. Yeah. It's always. I mean, it's always a story I love to tell. One of my aunties, she's not a rabid communist or anything, but she's voted Green for like the last 5 years, I think, all because a Green councillor came to her door during an election, and they had a natter about how bad Boris Johnson was for about half an hour. It can be that simple. Voting is really hard to predict for this reason. It's quite rare, obviously. Not everyone's going to give up half an hour to whinge about Boris Johnson, but you get a Green voter out of it. But I don't know how much longer that's going to last, given Zach Polanski's actually got the megaphone out for what they believe, and what they believe is mad.
Yeah, gosh. I have to say, I mean, he's probably doubled their membership.
I can believe it.
When tripled Labour's, and yet look at them. We can't exactly put all the eggs in that basket.
Well, I mean, I suppose this brings us back to the point. I know it's Lib Dems equivalent over in the Netherlands, but here there's every chance it could be the Greens that you end up voting Reform to keep Greens out, or vote Green to keep Reform out, depending on your preference there. Which I imagine telling anyone that. I know this is the cliche, but imagine telling anyone that in 2019. Who's Reform?
My
Nigel
joke.
Farage, who just retired. Well, he came back. Yeah.
No, my go-to joke literally used to be like, "Oh yeah, Nigel Farage will be on like 14% of the polls, and Rishi Sunak will have been Prime Minister and resigned with 72 Lib Dems." That used to be my like wacky sort of portrayal of things as they are now, and now I'm just like, oh my god. It's actually we've hit the bottom. We've started digging.
I sent my brother votes Labour, but I talked to him a lot about politics. But I sent him today's polling of Greens coming second, and then I sent him the monkey paw gif where it goes down. And I said, "I want the Tories to die," and then they get replaced with the Greens. Not ideal, but there we go.
Can I nip in here with a prime ministerial history?
You very well may, yes.
Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ignore the 60s and 70s because that was just chaos. I'm going to go from, the late 70s. I'm going to go from Thatcher. Okay, so she comes in 79. And she has a lot of stuff. There was a different word in my head that began with S to deal with there. Had the Falklands, had the economic crisis, had the dealing with the trade unions. She had all of that. In the end, she was brought down by her own party, which is just kind of stereotypical for the Tories. But she lasted as PM for 11 years. What's interesting is that Have I Got News for You actually started in sort of mid to late 1990, and their first few episodes, Margaret Thatcher was still PM.
Oh,
and you can
wow.
yeah, you can find those online. I actually said to a young producer friend of mine over at Talk, I said, you know, when Maggie Thatcher was ousted from office, I just turned 4. And it just kind of, because he's about 12 years younger than me, it kind of blows his mind. But anyway, so she was in for 11 years. Then we had Major, which was sort of continuity, but then sleaze. So he had the RMs scandal to deal with. He had the sleaze, various bits of it to deal with up until 97. Then we had Blair. Now I'm gonna skip Blair for now because I'm gonna come back to him later. Okay. After him, we have Brown, whose actual name, for anyone who doesn't know, is James Gordon Brown. Used his middle name, you see. He got into office and suddenly found that he had a financial crisis to deal with. It is underestimated, actually, the extent to which he did help to address that. And like I say, I'll be fair to all, you know, when it comes to that kind of thing. But yeah, he didn't last long. Then we had Cameron and Clegg, and of course now, you know, we look back at it and we think, well, yeah, so they had to deal with being coalition, being to what should be diametrically opposed parties, and having to. This is why the whole Fixed Term Parliament Act thing came in to begin with, because they were trying to establish some degree of you know, reliability of when the next election was going to be, because otherwise, God knows when it would have been. You see, and I'm glad it's gone now, that act. But you know, it's funny. There's a bit of footage that was featured on I've Got News for You, which was of sort of like Mike Still Left On post-interview thing, where Cameron, when Clegg is saying to Cameron, I will swear now, but I'm only quoting, you know, so we have to find stuff to bloody disagree on. You know, because they didn't really have much, you know, again, hashtag uniparty, right, you see? But still, in principle, so you had that. So there was a limited amount of stuff that they could get done, and they were, of course, dealing with Labour's mess up of the economy, so they you know, there was a lot of stuff they would have wanted to do and they couldn't. So then, amazingly, the Tories won a majority in 2015. Year later, all referendum that we thought we were going to win, or we didn't. And I have to say, actually, I will say this, I have respect for Lord Cameron, the now Lord Cameron. A lot of people said at the time, because he went at about, 8:30 in the morning, the next morning.
Yeah, a lot of people straight away.
Yeah, he's like, you should have stuck the course, but I think he should have gone, yeah. Yeah, I respect his decision because he thought, I am clearly not the man to lead this. And that is putting country before party and before career, you know. And you know, he just won only a year before. He'd won a majority that he never expected to get, and he got it, and he didn't have to deal with the goddamn Lib Dems anymore in his cabinet. So he was, you know, inconvenienced not being able to use them as human shields, which they did to a certain extent. But well, they did. But anyway, so you know, any kind of, you know, negative policy announcement, they got one of the Lib Dem ministers to put it out. That's usually what they did. No, they did. You know, but you know, he didn't have to deal with them anymore. So he got his majority. And then a year later, he was like, "Nah, mate, not doing this. This was not on the playbook. It should have been, and if it had been, then maybe it wouldn't have happened."
Well, that's where I have a bit of sympathy, and I understand why he did it. But how can you have? What was the plan with the Scottish one if they voted for independence? That would have been way worse.
I think he would have just billed them for billions and billions and billions of pounds and crippled Scotland for like 2 generations. I think that's genuinely what they would have done.
I will say again, Gordon Brown, you know, not my favourite Prime Minister, but I am, you know, I do recall he was actually very good on the no vote.
Yeah.
For Scottish independence, that was something he did do well from the side of the coin that says no. But anyway, so then what do we have? We have May. She comes in. She's got Brexit to deal with. And she's got a majority, but it's quite a thin one. Then she tries to get another one and fails. Yeah. So she has that to deal with. In the end, give it 3 years, she can't. Then we have Boris, who comes in, sorts Brexit, but then a month later, COVID happens. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I would honestly ask the question, I don't know whether there's any other Prime Minister out of all those ones I've just listed who could have actually gone on your television set and said, you need to stay at home. And the majority of people would actually have done it.
That's a very, very, very good point.
You see?
Yeah.
He has that selling point to him, right? And then we've had Liz Truss for 7 weeks. And then we've had Rishi, who not only did he not win a general election,
didn't even win the leadership.
He didn't. That's the thing. So, and then he lost the general election, which he knew he was going to lose, and we all know that. But anyway, so I'll just bring us up to speed now. So there we are. But of all those prime ministers, all of them, I said I'd skip Blair and come back.
Yeah.
What the sodding hell did he have to deal with? Aside from Iraq,
was his own fault.
Which was his own fault, yeah.
It was his own fault, but we're hiding behind the banner of the US, but still, that didn't damage him and was never going to damage him. I mean, Chilcot reported in 2015? That was not going to damage him while he was still in office. So we look at this man, who was the Prime Minister for 10 years. Out of all of those that I've just listed, who was the only one who actually managed to announce his own retirement, basically? And
because they were begging for him to do something by the end.
Well, it is also true that by the end, he didn't really have much authority left. But he did still have the majority that he had, and only in the end he went on his own terms, which in some sense can also be said of Rishi, but not in
the only other PM that I think did that was Harold Wilson. I cannot recall a different one. I think he did that because he had Alzheimer's, and he sort of realised, I'm going to go before this gets bad. I can only think of Harold Wilson.
It's not been a good century for prime ministers, really.
Well, all prime ministers run out of luck.
Yeah.
Except that Sir Tony, well, he didn't. He went of his own choosing. He went of his own accord. He went of his own timing. And the only reason I say everything I've just said is that actually that is incredibly rare.
Yes.
And when we look at the past 40 years or whatever, that is what we see. The only prime minister who is actually not gone because of a scandal or losing an election or whatever else, being ousted by the markets, see Liz Truss, actually he's the only one who has. But then the reason for that is he didn't really have, aside from Iraq and other things which, like I say, weren't going to damage him politically for some time, he didn't actually have a lot to deal with.
No, he came in at the perfect time. You had basically 17 years of Thatcherism.
Yeah.
And that made a great economy where he could... And the thing is as well, obviously, I love following Camillo on Twitter because he's a guy who used to blame Thatcher for deindustrialisation, all that. It was Tony Blair mostly doing that to end up paying for a lot of the social welfare he wanted to pay for. That's why we don't have industry. That's why we don't own anything. Thatcher kept a golden share. The only thing really nationalised properly privatised, were the trains. And that only lasted about 5 years. Because Tony Blair renationalised them under British Rail or National Rail. I always forget which. And it's a thing I always have to mention to people who think the train's privatised. Why is it every time they protest, they always protest against the Department for Transport? Because the Department for Transport run the whole thing. And yeah, this is the problem. We've just had... I always look back on the 20th century running into the 21st, and it is basically just non-stop crisis, apart from Tony Blair.
Yeah, he kind of got the lull of other people's work.
Yeah.
Quite amazing.
I mean, I always find it really funny how everyone kind of admits that, it was kind of Blair Brown that, you can blame a lot of that for them having no money left. Now we're at a point, it's, Johnson, Truss and Sunak who've put us into this mess. Next time it's going to be Starmer and Reeves have put us into a big mess. Whenever anything good happens, Tony Blair coming in on a big old wave of cash, nobody thanks Thatcher or Major.
No, that's really true.
Yeah,
it's a case of standing on the shoulders of giants to an extent, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. But everyone only remembers the head, or what's at head height anyway. So that's why it's going to be quite interesting with reform, because they're coming in on another crisis as well, and it could be another Thatcher where they do not everything, but they do a lot right, and then you end up having some left winger come in and ruin it all, and everyone blames Farage or reform.
The trouble with reform is that what they don't have is the ministerial experience. They haven't got people they can put on their front bench who have actually done this before, and people don't really seem to appreciate just how much that actually matters, and it really does. This is also why we send former prime ministers, usually, not always, well, all right, sometimes, to the House of Lords. Baroness Thatcher, okay, we had her because we've done the same thing with various cabinet secretaries. We've done that. We ennoble them because it just means they're still in the goddamn building.
Yeah.
You know? Well, it was what we didn't do with Tony Blair, isn't it?
Well, you're right, and actually, just to pick up on that point, Simon, because you are incredibly right, and I've said this before. Indeed, actually, on the airways, that people shouldn't be all too annoyed with Sir Sadiq Khan being made Sir Sadiq Khan, because the reality is, in Westminster terms, that's actually a snub. It is. Right. Seriously. What you could have done is ennobled him. Yeah. Which means he keeps getting to walk around the place. Now, he actually still does have his parliamentary pass. So Tony Blair, by the way, doesn't. But they only last for so long. Yeah. You do retain a parliamentary pass, even if you're no longer an MP for X amount of time. You do. So why has he been made a Knight of the Realm? Well, we're all, wherever we are in a room, yes. And it has 4 walls, and it has a floor, and it has a ceiling. Yeah.
Right.
What Sir Sadiq was being told, and I will religiously refer to him and Sir Tony as Sir Sadiq and Sir Tony, because it's not my business to determine the British honour system. It's not my business to do that. He is Sir Sadiq. What Sir Sadiq was being told was not, this is your floor. What he was being told was, this is your ceiling.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Can't run for MP.
He could again if he wanted to. There's nothing to stop him from doing that. But the point is, what he was being told is, take this, now sod off. Okay.
Right.
That's basically what he was being told. There's a lot more they could. He could have got himself an OBE, MB, CB, something like that. He could have had a peerage, and no, he hasn't. What he's got is a knighthood, which is kind of basic level. Sort of like, take this, now sod off.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing as with Sir Tony Blair. He's a former prime minister, of 10 years. Now, Thatcher was a PM for 11 years. And she got an ennoblement. He didn't. People notice, because that's how there's a reason why on my phone the ringtone is a song by, I can't remember who they are, but it's called "High School Never Ends."
Right.
It's a good song. I'll send it later. But the reason I have that is because since I've been in politics for these past 6 years, I have found that this statement is so very true. High school never ends.
Oh,
I'll briefly go through the lyrics of the chorus. If you don't know, I'm going to sing it, because I'm not doing that.
You are free to recite lyrics. Sing it or not, that's entirely up to you.
It's the whole damn world is just as obsessed with who's the best dressed and who's having sex Who's got the money? Who gets the honey? You know, who's kind of cute and who's just a mess? And you still don't have the right look, and you still don't have the right friends. But you basically pretty much the same as you were back then. It's something like that. It's a high school never ends. That's basically it. It's a very good song because it's true. And when you look at Westminster,
yeah, God, yeah, it's very much like that.
Not just Westminster, offices, workplace.
God, the offices are horrible for even like teachers in the staff room and stuff. I hear it's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
it's lunchtime. I'm 15. I'm hearing some right strange nonsense. God.
Yeah.
That's very true.
That's the point, though. Is like I say, is that it's nowhere more true than in Westminster, or indeed Hollywood. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when we look then, I'll come back to the point now. For God's sake, the whole thing with Sir Sadiq becoming Sir Sadiq is what he's being told is this is not your floor, this is your ceiling. You're getting this much. Now sod off and stop angling for anything further. And what people who don't sort of circulate in Westminster circles actually understand is that, because there was a huge outcry over this. I mean, it's like, oh, he's being rewarded for failure. He's been a terrible London mayor. Why should he get this? No, seriously. Let him take it and go whenever he goes.
This is best case scenario. I mean, I didn't particularly mind it because I had the mindset of, man won 3 elections and oversaw the capital for 10 years. Yeah, he did a horrible job, but you're obviously going to get something for that. Yeah. Same with Tony Blair. Just like, you're not part of that club. Get over it.
Well, with one exception, though. With one exception, actually, if we think about the former Speaker of the House.
John Bercow?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he didn't get it because he was then revealed to be a massive knob jockey immediately after he left the job.
Well, I think it was a big bully to put it in PC language, but yeah.
I think people knew that already, but the fact, bearing in mind that as Speaker he got to live on the parliamentary estate, you have a lot of privilege in that role. You really do. I actually rather like Lindsay Hoyle as a person, Yeah. But my point being, the fact that when even Blair and Khan got at least a peerage, and sorry, not at least, got at least a knighthood.
A knighthood, yeah.
That he got absolutely nothing tells you a great deal about what people in Westminster circles actually thought of him.
Yeah. What's he even doing now? I know after he quit or was thrown out as Speaker, I don't remember which, he was going around on some talk shows saying order. But I've literally not heard of anything of him since.
Oh my God, I can tell you one thing he's done, and I swear to you this is real. He is the voice actor for the Speaker in Fallout London.
Oh, is it? I need to get... I've not played Fallout London in ages.
I tried to, it's quite bugging.
But
he is the voice for the Speaker in Fallout London.
I can believe that.
In fact, that's the reason I downloaded it and I checked in the areas.
How far can you fall? I am voice acting for a very niche mod. Actually, it's not that niche for a mod, to be honest, but it's still quite niche.
Is it as bad as Sigma on the wall, who's the skivviest of them all?
He was at least paid for that.
For 75 quid a head, it's not bad.
I'd say that for 75 quid, to be fair to Farage.
I'd say a lot of things for 75 pounds.
Well, Farage does this. Are we talking about what I think we're talking about, whereby
cameos?
He still does it. I ordered it for someone like 2 months ago. He still does it. It's like a 24-hour. He was literally wearing things I saw him wearing on the telly on the day. I got it for a friend of mine as a bit of a Mickey take. And there's like, he did it within 24 hours. It's like, my God, you really are dedicated to this.
He should probably stop that if he becomes PM, but we'll see. Imagine paying Prime Minister. But he should up the price. Imagine being Prime Minister having to get £1,000 to say skibbity toilet. In the cabinet.
And you just do it from the Prime Ministerial lectern as well.
I can tell you for a fact he would not be allowed to do that.
Yes, I wouldn't have thought so, to be fair. I'm kind of amazed he's allowed to do it now, but
The amount of compliance he's going to have to do if he gets it is insane.
And he's not going to be used to it, and he's going to hate it.
No, yeah.
That's the other thing. He's really going to hate it. This is the thing.
His team are going to be even worse.
Well, he doesn't. I don't know. It's one of those. I think there's someone else who I won't name, who I could say this about, who wants to be, ostensibly, wants to serve in the armed forces, and he's been rejected on the grounds of the fact that he has eczema and the fact that he has migraines, which I could have told him and did tell him. To be honest, I mean, I know what he wants to do. He wants to get married, settle down. He wants to have a child. He wants to, buy a house. He wants to do all these perfectly normal things.
Yeah.
But honestly, in terms of serving the military, what I would say to people is, I don't think he wants to serve. I think he wants to have served.
Yeah, he wants the valor, but that obviously comes with years of work, and
it's a case of ticking box. And I think for someone like Nigel, that could well be the case. He might not even stay in there for that long, or I could be wrong. It could be the case that he genuinely does want to serve his country, that he genuinely does think that this is his party and his politics are the right way forwards. And I mean, who else is going to do it? I mean, what's quite clear is no one else is going to do it. Perhaps he is just stepping up to the plate because, to be honest, for the past 25, 30 years, that's exactly what he's done when no one else would do it. Okay?
And then on top of that as well, anyone else who's tried has been absolutely awful. Anyone remember Jared Batten from UKIP? Terrible. I joined UKIP. He was there. I didn't last long. Who else is there? I guess Rupert Lowe. He's still about, but nobody talks about Rupert Lowe the way they were 3-4 months ago.
No, that's sort of...
It's kind of died a death, that. Ben Habib, he launched his advance party. It's still... I did actually check the electoral register the other day, and it's there's been no further... they've not... I think he said they put it in and it got rejected. They made two, because I think one's for Great Britain, the other's for Northern Ireland. And I think the last update was, we had some back and forth with it, but I've not seen any further developments on whether it's going to become a party or not. I know people have speculated that he's got a tick as the logo, because if you have a tick, you cannot make a political party.
Sorry?
Because of the logo. I can't remember where I heard this. I think it was because Patriotic Alternative were using it as an excuse for why they didn't make a party. Really, they just couldn't be bothered.
That would have wasted money.
Yeah, well, they had a tick in their logo, and that's what they were saying. So I've heard people say the same thing about Advance. I don't know if Ben Habib can be bothered to make a party unless he gets Musk's money, which I don't think he is. But this is the thing with Nigel. He's stepping up to the plate, because as you say, who else will it be?
Well, can I just clarify? Are you referring to ballot box?
Yeah, because it has the logo on the ballot paper, doesn't it? So I don't know if you can have a tick.
Well, yes, but the trouble with that is that actually, although it's supposed to be a cross in the box, you can actually get away with a tick.
Yes, you can. Yeah,
you can. And in fact, I recall another story from years ago, where somebody had put, a cock in the box.
Penis,
they obviously thought they were doing to
spoil.
To give somebody or other a thumbs up. Oh, sorry, not a thumbs up, a thumbs down.
I don't like this.
A middle finger. But because it was placed just right in the middle of the box, that was counted as a valid vote.
I didn't know that counted. I knew it could be a tick. I knew it didn't necessarily have to be a cross, but from the sounds of it, any sort of shape in one box, that's a valid vote. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It is.
So you could draw a form arrow. But
you could. Yeah. You could, and I'm sure some people probably will. Now, speaking also, just to move on a bit, the as to people who might become the next PM, we have the Labour deputy leadership results.
Yes.
We do. We have Lucy Powell. So she is going to be the deputy leader, and I think it's been made quite clear. I might just not have read enough around this, but does that mean she's the deputy PM?
No, I think they've made it very clear that Lammy's staying.
Okay.
I think it was made from day one when Rayner actually resigned. It was said like we're making Lammy the deputy PM. Whoever wins the Labour leadership deputy leadership election, they will not be automatically made deputy prime minister.
Yeah, she also happened to win Spectator's Disruptor of the Year the day after. Oh, same day, day after. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she won the Spectator Awards. I saw.
Not Zach Polanski. I mean,
Zach Polanski won another one. I can't remember what he won.
Worst Teeth.
No. I think Nigel would be in the running for that anyway.
To be honest, yeah.
To be fair, Zach Polanski won something. I can't remember what, and Julia Hartley Brewer accepted the award for him. So,
did you not turn up?
Why would he turn up? With his image, he cannot turn up at a boozy do with a load of Labour Tories and Reform MPs, maybe some Lib Dems as well, to be fair. So it's I mean that was quite interesting, but
better off at a Hezbollah meeting, is it?
Well, but Lucy Powell winning Disruptor, I was trying to work out why, because I was trying to work out what she actually did this year. Because can anyone remember if she was a minister and got kicked out?
I think I don't really. There's got to be something, but the problem is if it's not coming to mind, it's not going to be that disruptive, is it? Well, I think it's because she's won the deputy leadership election and she wasn't the favoured candidate. That might be.
Well, I think she was shadow education secretary at some point, but that was way back in the party's days of complete irrelevance.
She was leader of the House of Commons and was was kicked out as part of the reshuffle that I completely forgot happened.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
The thing with her is that the most important thing about this is that it is believed in Westminster circles that this was not what the Prime Minister's ideal outcome was, and this does show you what happens
basically
when you take over the party membership is not actually based on what Westminster thinks. It's what and that's also how he turned up with Liz Truss. So it's
Liz Truss. Jeremy Corbyn wasn't supposed to win. This keeps happening, and SW1 don't seem to realise.
It turns out that people who don't spend all their time hanging out in Westminster actually have maybe a different view, and that's why podcasts like this exist. Yeah. We can feed that view in from those circles, but it's also important that we talk in terms that other people will understand. And I mean, looking at that sounded a bit too condescending. I didn't mean for it to sound that way, but at the same time, when you have spent enough time in these circles, honestly, dear Lord,
I can imagine. I mean, while I brought up the Spectator Awards, I did very much enjoy Zia Yusuf standing up on the stage after winning Resignation of the Year. He basically thanked everyone in the room for being so bad that it allowed the rise of reform.
That's exactly what you do.
He did not get many laughs or claps, which I loved to see.
Yeah, I saw the clip. I have to say it was pretty.
There's a level of disdain that Zia Yusuf has for all these politicians, which I think is understandable because he has come in as an outsider, and he does basically blame all of them for the state of the country, which obviously a lot of voters and the public do as well, which is why I can see Zia Yusuf rising in popularity. Well, he's risen in popularity, but he's going to carry on rising in popularity.
There are lots of people that are very sceptical of reform, but who are somewhat tuned into these things, who like him far more than Farage.
Oh, yeah.
Which I find deeply interesting.
Well, I find it very funny because if you go on Twitter, like a lot of Twitter's still very sceptical of him, still because of the Rupert Lowe thing. Everyone in the public's forgotten about that and just see him on.
Just skeptical of anybody that doesn't want to deport every immigrant at this point.
Well, Twitter is a complete and utter cesspit. I do agree. I do try and stay on there as the voice of reason.
For your sins, yeah, mate.
Yeah, I mean we've got a couple of minutes left as well. I mean, speaking of people who want to deport everyone, there has been the drama with Connor Tomlinson and Michael Gove, where Gove, obviously editor of The Spectator, brought him on to have a debate with Catherine Birbalsingh, who runs the Michaela School, which, for all intents and purposes, seems to run very well in terms of getting results. There's culture in that school I'm a bit sceptical of. It sounds a little bit communist in terms of vegetarian meals for everyone only. You know, I can go through that. They apparently had a debate that they were going to do themselves on Connor's own channel, but The Spectator ran it. Connor's claiming that there was a verbal contract. Why you trust that from Gove, I don't know. And apparently now there's lawyers involved. They're going to try and basically sue The Spectator to get the footage, or at least the clips out. And I kind of can't believe he's putting so much effort into it when you can just have the same thing on your own channel with Catherine Birbalsingh anyway.
What I also think is so strange about this particular situation is that Connor didn't just have his own recording. That he didn't just bring his own cat. I mean, surely you never insist upon that. Or you would at the very least just whack a recording device in your pocket. But Michael Gove's hardly giving you a pat down when you come in, is he?
I mean, why would you trust any politician at their word? I'm not just going to pick on Michael Gove.
It's just the stupidest, most avoidable situation that he's put himself in. Yeah. I do think Michael Gove has acted like a scumbag if what Connor says is true.
Oh yeah, but this is what, the scorpion stung me.
I've sent you the meme with Mandelson before. This is kind of it, But you promised Michael. It's like, lol, wow.
Well, yeah, quite. It's I just wanted to bring that up as well because we were talking about The Spectator, and it's something that I've been following for quite some time, and obviously everyone wants to hear what he says, but I've also got a theory that basically Michael Gove's not releasing it to kind of save Connor. It sounds like Connor brings up a lot of spicy topics. I think
it's Connor, come on.
Well, he says himself, he brings up, shouldn't white ethnic Brits be the only people in government? Shouldn't it only be Christians? Which I don't know why he'd say that, because if we're going down that route, it should only be Church of England, and he's Catholic. So
actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so you're not going to be in good standing there either.
Off you go to the pies, Connor?
Well, yeah, no popery here. I say that as a Catholic.
I think we all are by birth. Apart from Patrick, I have to question you now. What is your religious background? There is a right and wrong answer.
Oh, is there?
Walked into an IRA pub.
Well, I mean, actually, as a family, we've kind of shopped around. So when I was very young, we were Methodist.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then when we came up here, we were still Methodist. And then between my parents, of course, my father has left my mother after 39 years of marriage. And yes, I'm going to say that on the airways, and I don't care because I don't need to. So when they were still together, he went to the local sort of Anglican one church, and she went to the Baptist one. I myself was baptized at the age of 16 because with Baptists, obviously that's how it works. It's adult baptism. It's all sort of full immersion. They don't do child baptism. Oh. And it was, in fact, as I mentioned, I think, I can't remember if I did, but if I did, then the last time I died was, in fact, in that same church where I was baptized. So I can only imagine that the Lord does not, is not all that keen for me to join him. But so, yeah, since then, the way it's been is that my dad was Anglican and my mum was Baptist, and I tended to go to the Baptist one. So that's, I'm basically a Baptist.
2 Catholics and a Baptist. Right, okay. This is very.
We're not allowed anywhere close to politics in Connor's world.
So
Belfast trip.
What I can say is that I've never waved a tambourine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose. But anyway, I think we will end it there on that bit of drama.
On that bombshell.
Well, I've wanted to talk about it for a while, but it's not really. I don't feel like it's really a topic for a video of mine, so I've got it out, so that's good. And doing it on
Well,
Twitter.
maybe we can do it next time. You know.
Well, mate. Well,
I don't mind talking about it.
I'm hoping there's more more interesting things happening next week, but we'll find out. You know, Rachel Reeves might have gone tomorrow, and we put this out, and we're all speculating she'll survive. Wouldn't be the first time. Right. Anyway, I would like to thank Patrick and Simon for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.